All right, so this is going to be another movie review. This one's called The Man Who Knew 1956. This is going to be another Adrian recommendation. I'm giving it 2 out of 5 stars. I dislike this one. Paramount presents James Stewart, Doris Day, Alfred Hitchcock's The Man Who Knew Too Much, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. Screenplay by John Michael Hayes, based on the story by Chris Bennett and D.B. Wyndham Lewis in VistaVision. Motion picture high fidelity. Color by Technicolor. And so the movie poster says, I'm not too thrilled by the movie poster either. The Man Who Knew Too Much is a 1956 U.S. mystery thriller film directed and produced by Alfred Hitchcock, starring James Stewart and Doris Day. It is Hitchcock's second film using this title, following his own 1934 film of the same name, but featuring a significantly altered plot and script. I have the 1934 vision number 66 on my list. It's not coming up anytime soon, but it is somewhat towards the top. In the book-length interview, Hitchcock Truffaut, 1966, in response to fellow filmmaker Francois Truffaut's assertion that aspects of the remake were by far superior, Hitchcock replied, "Let's say the first version is the work of a talented amateur, and the second was made by a professional." The film won an Academy Award for Best Original Song for Que Sera, Sera, Whatever Will Be, sung by Day. It premiered at the Cannes Film Festival on April 29th, 1956. Production companies: Phil White Productions, Spinall Entertainment, distributed by Paramount Pictures. Release dates: April 29th, 1956 in Cannes and May 16th, 1956 in New York City. Running time 120 minutes. Country: United States. Language: English. Budget $1.2 million. And box office $11.3 million. So it was somewhat of a box office success. A U.S. family: Dr. Benjamin Ben McKenna, his wife, popular singer Josephine Jo Conway McKenna, and their son Henry Hank McKenna are vacationing in French Morocco. For Doris Day, her Jo character is actually imitating reality here. Traveling from Casablanca to Marrakesh, they meet Frenchman Louis Bernard. He seems friendly, but Jo is suspicious of his many questions and evasive answers. Bernard offers to take the McKennas to dinner, but cancels when a suspicious-looking man knocks at the McKenna's hotel room door. This is where Doris Day is wearing her knockout dress, sleeveless. Ugh. Unfortunately, she doesn't get naked in this one, Doris Day. At a restaurant, the McKennas meet friendly English couple, Lucy and Edward Drayton. The McKennas are surprised to see Bernard arrive and sit elsewhere, apparently ignoring them. All right, so Doris Day is the reason to watch this. We love Que Sera, Sera, Whatever Will Be, Will Be. And that's the only reason to watch this film. The rest of it is boring. 2 hours long. Running time. Too long. The next day, visiting the local marketplace with the Draytons. Okay, so we got The McKinnas see a man chased by police. After being stabbed in the back, the man approaches Ben, who discovers he is Bernard in blackface disguise. The dying Bernard whispers that a foreign statesman will be assassinated in London and that Ben must tell the authorities about Ambrose Chapel. Lucy returns Hank to the hotel room while Ben, Joe, and Edward go to the police station for questioning about Bernard's death. An officer explains that Bernard was a French intelligence agent. All right. So just like with Grace Kelly and Cary Grant, we have Doris Day and James Stewart in French Morocco. We had Cary Grant and Grace Kelly in the French Riviera. Which one would you rather have, Grace Kelly or Doris Day? I'd go for Doris Day. Ben receives a phone call at the police station. Hank has been kidnapped, but will not be harmed if the McKennas say nothing to the police about Bernard's warning. Knowing Hank was left in Lucy's care, Ben dispatches Edward to locate him. When Ben and Joe return to the hotel, they discovered Edward checked out. Ben realizes the Draytons are the couple Bernard was looking for, and the Draytons are involved in Hank's abduction. When he learns the Draytons are from London, he decides he and Joe should go there and try to find them through Ambrose Campbell. In London, Scotland Yard's Inspector Buchanan tells Joe and Ben that Bernard was in Morocco to uncover an assassination plot. They are instructed to contact him if they hear from the kidnappers. Leaving Joe's friends in their hotel suite, the McKennas search for a person named Ambrose Chapel. Venger 6 is in the chat room. Venger 6 says, how goes it? Well, I tried uploading this video 15 minutes ago, and it malfunctioned, and I couldn't go back and fix it. But I'm back here going through this movie that I didn't enjoy too much. But I will go down my list and talk about some other movies that I'm planning to watch today. In London, Scotland Yard's Inspector Buchanan tells Joe and Ben that Bernard was in Morocco to uncover an assassination plot. They are instructed to contact him if they hear from the kidnappers. Leaving Joe's friends in their hotel suite, the McKennas search for a person named Ambrose Chapel. Joe realizes that Ambrose Chapel is a place, and the McKennas arrive at the chapel to find Edward leading a service. The wolf in sheep's clothing. Joe leaves the chapel to call the police. After Edward sends his congregation home, Ben confronts him and he is knocked out and locked inside. Poor Ben. He's having a bad day. Joe arrives with the police, but they cannot enter without a warrant. Joe learns that Buchanan has gone to a concert at the Royal Albert Hall. I might add that there's a drive-in poster advertisement from 1956 on Wikipedia, if you're interested. It looks like it's a double bill with Fury at Gunsight Pass. Joe asks the police to take her there to Royal Albert Hall. Once the police and Joe leave, the Draytons take Hank to a former foreign embassy. In the Royal Albert Hall lobby, Jo sees the man who came to her door in Marrakesh. When he threatens to harm Hank if she interferes, she realizes he is the assassin sent to kill the foreign prime minister. And everybody seems to be at the right place at the right time. Ben escapes the chapel through its bell tower, and Ben reaches the Royal Albert Hall, where Jo points out the assassin. Ben searches the balcony boxes for the killer, who is waiting for a cymbal crash to mask his gunshot. Just before the cymbals crash, Jo screams and the assassin misses his mark, only wounding his target. Ben struggles with the would-be killer, who falls to his death. Now we've got some Manchurian Candidate stuff going on. Concluding that Hank is likely to be at the embassy, but that it is sovereign and exempt from an investigation, the McKennas secure an invitation from the grateful prime minister. The ambassador organized the plot to kill the prime minister, and he blames the failed attempt on the Draytons. Knowing that Hank can easily testify against them, he orders the Draytons to kill the boy. But one of the Mrs. Drayton is not going to let it happen. The prime minister asks Jo to sing. She loudly performs Que sera, sera, so that Hank will hear her. Lucy, who is guarding Hank while Edward prepares to murder him, is distressed at the prospect of killing a child. So we have a crook with a guilty conscience here. So she encourages the boy to whistle along with the song. Ben finds Hank. Edward tries escaping with them at gunpoint, but when Ben hits him, he falls down the stairs to his death. The McKennas return to their hotel suite. We've got a trailer on Wikipedia. Alfred Hitchcock's cameo is a signature occurrence in most of his films. In The Man Who Knew Too Much, he can be seen 25 minutes and 42 seconds in the film, in the lower left corner, watching acrobats in the Moroccan market, with his back to the camera, wearing a light gray suit and putting his hands into his pockets. Just before the spy is killed, Bernard Herrmann, who wrote the film score, cameos as the conductor at Royal Albert Hall, the only time Herrmann appeared on camera in a film. Alfred Hitchcock first considered a U.S. remake of The Man Who Knew Too Much in 1941, but Hitchcock only brought back the idea in 1956 to make a film that would fulfill a contractual demand from Paramount Pictures. The studio agreed it was a picture that could be well adapted to the new decade. The Royal Albert Hall sequence drew some inspiration from H.M. Bateman's comic The One-Note Man, which followed the daily life of a musician who plays only one note in a symphony, similar to the cymbal player in the film. Screenwriter John Michael Hayes was hired on the condition that he would not watch the early version nor read its script, with all the plot details coming from a briefing with Hitchcock. Only the opening scenes of the script were ready when filming began, and Hayes had to send the subsequent script pages by airmail as he finished them. Hitchcock's frequent composer, Bernard Herrmann, wrote the background film score. However, the performance of Arthur Benjamin's Storm Clouds cantata, conducted by Herrmann, is used as source music for the climax of the film. Herrmann was given the option of composing a new cantata to be formed during the film's climax. However, he found Arthur Benjamin's cantata Storm Clouds from the original 1934 film to be so well suited to the film that he declined, although he did expand the orchestration. and he inserted several repeats to make the sequence longer. Herman can be seen conducting the London Symphony Orchestra with mezzo-soprano Barbara Howitt and chorus during the Royal Albert Hall scenes. The sequence in the Royal Albert Hall runs for 12 minutes without any dialogue from the beginning of Storm Cloud's cantata until the climax when Doris Day's character screams. Doris Day's character in the film is well known, now a retired professional singer, and at 2 points in the film, she sings the Livingston and Evans song, Que sera, sera, whatever will be, a performance which won the 1956 Academy Awards for Best Original Song. Day's recording the song reached number 2 on the US pop charts and number 1 in the UK. Reviewers for the film were generally positive, although some critics expressed a preference for the 1934 original. I think I'm in the latter boat, even though I haven't seen the 1934 original. I'd be interested to see if it's actually better than this. Bosley Crowther of the New York Times wrote, James Stewart tops his job in Rear Window as the man who knows too much, and Doris Day is surprisingly effective as the mother who is frantic about her child. Even in Mammoth VistaVision, the old Hitchcock thriller stuff has punch. Variety wrote that while Hitchcock draws the footage out of a bit long at 119 minutes, he still keeps suspense working at all times and gets strong performances from the 2 stars and other cast members. Harrison's reports called the film a highly exciting and entertaining suspense thriller that grips the audiences from start to finish. John McCartan of The New Yorker wrote Richard L. Coe of The Washington Post also liked the film, calling it a dandy of its particular kind, if a wee bit too leisurely. John McCartan of The New Yorker wrote in a negative review, saying that the remake was ultimately bigger and shinier than the original. It doesn't move along with anything like the agility of its predecessor. There can be no doubt, of course, that Mr. Hitchcock at one time was a master of celluloid suspense, but increasingly of late he has been running out of movies that are too overweight to indulge in the tricks of his salad days. The Monthly Film Bulletin wrote, although a quite entertaining thriller with some characteristically shrewd and caustic Hitchcock touches, it is likely to disappoint devotees of the first film. It lacks the earlier pace and excitement, the peculiarly English charms of the original has been exchanged for a vague VistaVision and Technicolor cosmopolitanism. The Dennis episodes and the Rage Seat and the Siege climax are unhappily missing. C.A. Lejeune of The Observer wrote that the plot had a tendency to meander with jokes that may have looked more humorous in transcript, concluding the film was strong as long as it stuck to the main plot, but the first Man Who Knew Too Much was stronger in every way. So we'll have to check that out, make our own determination at some point later this year. The film was a commercial success, filmed on a budget of $1.2 million. It grossed $11,333,000. $333 at the domestic box office, earning $4.1 million in U.S. theatrical rentals. On the review aggregator website, Rotten Tomatoes, the film has an average score of a whopping 88% based on 43 reviews, with an average rating of 7.8 out of 10. The website's critics consensus reads, remaking his own 1934 film, Hitchcock imbues the man who knew too much with picturesque locales and international intrigue, and he's helped by a brilliantly befuddled performance from James Stewart. So I guess the reason to watch this is the same reason to watch Cary Grant and Grace Kelly in the French Riviera. It's like you're taking a vacation in a different continent. Excuse me. At Metacritic, the film has a weighted average score of 76 out of 100, based on 10 critics indicating generally favorable reviews. In 2004, American Film Institute included the song Que sera, sera, whatever will be, as number 48 in AFI's 100 Years, 100 Songs. The Man Who Knew Too Much was kept out of re-release by Hitchcock until 1983, when it was acquired by Universal Pictures. The film has been released on home video by Universal Pictures Home Entertainment and VHS, Betamax, Laserdisc, DVD, Blu-ray, and 4K Blu-ray formats. A documentary on the making of the film was produced for the 2000 DVD, including interviews with Hitchcock's daughter, Patricia Hitchcock, and members of the production crew. It has been included on the latter Blu-ray and 4K Blu-ray theater releases as well. Not theater releases, Blu-ray and 4K Blu-ray releases as well. For the 2023 4K Blu-ray, the film was completely restored, and the original theatrical Perspecta audio elements were discovered, allowing the early front runner to stereo to be included with the film for the first time since its original release. All right. Venger6 was in the chat room asking me, how goes it? And I answered, and I got no response. Okay. The Man Who Knew Too Much, 1956, rated PG, 2 hours too long. Gets a whopping 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb, 72,000 ratings. It's not super popular, but it's not obscure either. An U.S. doctor and his wife, a former singing star, witness a murder while vacationing in Morocco, and they are drawn into a twisting plot of international intrigue when their young son is kidnapped. More like this, Rope, which is my favorite Hitchcock flick. Then you've got To Catch a Thief, Frenzy, and The Trouble with Harry. Throughout the filming, Doris Day became increasingly concerned that Sir Alfred Hitchcock paid more attention to camera setups, lighting, and technical matters than he did to her performance. Convinced that he was displeased with their work, she finally confronted him. His reply was, "My dear Miss Day, if you weren't giving me what I wanted, then I would have to direct you." When Hank is being taken by his kidnappers, From the chapel to the embassy, the group gets in and drive large 1953 Hummer Mark IV Super Snipe on a Hollywood soundstage. The pretend driver enters on the right, but the supposed front seat passenger can be seen releasing the handbrake and holding the steering wheel. The car's exhaust sound also does not match the Hummer. In the second scene later, the same car enters the embassy rear gate, also on a Hollywood soundstage, and the car can be seen as having red seats. In the next cut, the car pulls up at the rear of the embassy, and Hank and the kidnappers exit. The car has now become a smaller and earlier 1951 Hummer Mark IV Hawk with tan seats, filmed on location in London, although both cars show the same registration number. Here's quotes, last lines. I'm going to spoil the ending here. Dr. Ben McKenna says, "Sorry we were gone so long. We had to pick up Hank." Trying to be cutesy with the ending there. Didn't really work very well. Opening credits prologue, a single crash of cymbals and how it rocked the lives of an American family. The original film opened with the Paramount logo, followed by their patented widescreen process, VistaVision. In the 1980s, Universal reissued the film with their logo and dropped the reference to VistaVision. The Blu-ray edition retains the Paramount VistaVision logos at the start, but carries the 80s Universal logo at the end. So my version that I watched on YouTube had the Universal logo at the beginning, the Paramount VistaVision logo right afterwards. This was edited into Histories du Cinéma, Le Contrôle de l'Univers, which I had the misfortune of watching. That one came from Godard in 1999, and I watched it about, 7 years ago, something like that. Soundtrack, Storm Cloud Cantata, 1934, by Arthur Benjamin and D.B. Wyndham Lewis, performed by London Symphony Orchestra, conducted by Bernard Herrmann, orchestrated by Bernard Herrmann, Covent Garden Chorus, and Barbara Howitt, soloist. All right. Here's a featured review on IMDb. Much higher rating than mine. I'm only giving it a 4 out of 10. This person is giving it a 9 out of 10. B. Kogan Bing, dated May 22nd, 2006. The title of the featured review on IMDb is called Que Sera Sera. The original The Man Who Knew Too Much brought Alfred Hitchcock acclaim for the first time outside of the United Kingdom. Of course, part of the reason for the acclaim was that folks marveled how Hitchcock, on such a skimpy budget as compared to lavish Hollywood products, was able to provide so much on the screen. The original film was shot inside a studio. For whatever reason, he chose this and all of his films to remake. Hitchcock, now with an international reputation and a big Hollywood studio behind him, Paramount, decided to see what The Man Who Knew Too Much would be like with a lavish budget. I'm more intrigued to see the original on a low budget, and I do have it on my list at 66. This is shot on location in Marrakesh and London and has two big international names for box office. This was James Stewart's third of four Hitchcock films and his only teaming with Doris Day and her only Hitchcock film. I do wonder why Hitchcock never used Doris again. At first glance, she would fit the profile of blonde leading ladies that Hitchcock favored, possibly because her wholesome screen image was at odds with the sophistication Hitchcock also wanted in his blondes. Okay, so she wasn't slutty enough, I guess. Doris does some of her best acting ever in The Man Who Knew Too Much. Her best scene is when her doctor husband, James Stewart, gives her a sedative before telling her their son had been kidnapped by an English couple who befriended them in Morocco. Stewart and Day play off each other beautifully in that scene, but Doris, especially as she registers about four different emotions at once. Day and Stewart are on vacation with their son Christopher in Morocco, and they make the acquaintance of Frenchman Daniel Gellin and the aforementioned English couple Bernard Miles and Brenda de Benzie. Gellin is stabbed in the back at the marketplace in Marrakesh, and Gellin whispers some dying words to Stewart about an assassination to take place in Albert Hall in London. Their child is snatched in order to ensure their silence. For the only time I could think of a hit song came out of a Hitchcock film. Doris, in fact, plays a noted singer who retired from the stage to be wife and mother. The song was Que Sera Sera, and I remember it well at age 9. I remember it well at age 9 too. You couldn't go anywhere without hearing it in 1956. It even competed with the fast rising Elvis Presley that year. Que Sera Sera won the Academy Award for Best Song, beating out such titles as True Love from High Society and the title song from Around the World in 80 Days. It became Doris Day's theme song for the rest of her life and still is, should she ever want to come back. Well, she's dead. Although she lived longer than 2006, she's now dead. In fact, the song has worked quite nicely into the plot as Doris sings it at an embassy party at the climax. Instead of doing with mirrors, Hitchcock shot the assassination scene at the real Albert Hall, and like another reviewer said, it's not directed, it's choreographed. You'll be hanging on your seats during that moment. This was remake worth doing. So there you have it. The Man Who Knew Too Much. And that's the end of my review. Laters. What? Anyways. Some